My name is Dane Trembath. I'm the Collection Manager of Herpetology for the Australian Museum Research Institute. Herpetology is the study of reptiles and amphibians, which is kind of interesting because it's kind of two totally different groups that have been lumped together into one. The Australian Museum Research Institute Herpetology Collection is the largest collection of Australian reptiles and amphibians. The collection currently is over 180,000 specimens, and there's probably more that we're slowly discovering, databasing and registering. About 2/3 is reptiles and about 1/3 is amphibians. So one thing that helps us study cryptic species especially is museum collections. It allows you to very fast look at a large amount of animals. Some of these animals are very hard to find, at least when you have a museum collection, especially one like here, which has hundreds of years of collecting. You can pour out of jars and make piles, and you'll very quickly start seeing the differences. So the main use of our collection currently is taxonomic work. A visiting researcher can come here to look at a species of lizard, and we might have 500 specimens, which makes it a lot easier than going to catch those.
My name's Rick Shine. I'm a professor in biology at Macquarie Uni. And one of the big problems we have with Australia, of course, is many species are becoming endangered. It's really hard to conserve a species if you don't understand it. And the Australian Museum has got a vast number of these animals. We can look inside them, we can find out what that species eats, what size they mature, how many kids they have, when they have them, and that's critical information. If you want to conserve biodiversity, you've got to understand the species, and the collections give us a window into an enormous amount of ecological information.
My name is Dr. Jodi Rowley, and I'm the Curator of Amphibian and Reptile Conservation Biology at the Australian Museum and University of New South Wales. The Australian Museum Herpetology Collection is core to the work that I do. These collections, they help us understand our biodiversity, what we have, how many species of frog and other amphibian are there in Australia and the world. And they help us understand how things have changed over time. So things like disease, how they've started impacting our frogs, which has been absolutely horrible with many species under threat and even extinct because of disease. Our collections can help unlock secrets as to when these diseases arrived and help us manage our frogs into the future. And the same thing with climate change, habitat loss. Having this kind of library of how our biodiversity was in the past helps us figure out how to help make sure we have the amazing biodiversity that we have now into the future.
Herpetology comes from the Greek herpeton, which is things that crawl. And so I think at the time they decided that all the things that crawled was probably all the creepy crawly things that weren't insects. And that's how amphibians and reptiles seem to have been lumped into what we call herpetology. There are 4 orders of reptiles. Number 1's the crocodilia, crocodiles and alligators. Number 2 are the testudines, the turtles and tortoises. The 3rd one is the squamata, which comprises the snakes and lizards. And the 4th one is the rhynchocephalia, which is only the tuatara. There are 3 orders of amphibians. The first is the anura, which comprises all the frogs and toads. The second is the chordata, which are all the salamanders. And the 3rd is the gymnophiona, which are the caecilians. Some of the misconceptions about herpetology that I've encountered is the idea that they're slimy. Amphibians are certainly sort of moistish when you touch it, but reptiles definitely aren't. They're drier, that's basically what the scales are doing. The other misconception is that they're not intelligent animals. Reptiles and amphibians were thought to not be actually smart creatures, but now with more study, people are finding that they're actually highly intelligent creatures. They actually do cool social behaviour, like they have parental care. They're ancient animals, and I think people don't connect that well with really ancient animals. Cold-blooded is sort of an old term. All reptiles and amphibians are ectothermic. They all require climatic variables to regulate, to basically make their body temperature. What you eat to produce your energy, 70% of that energy goes into keeping yourself warm. Whereas in a reptile, because it can't make itself warm, none of that energy it's creating from eating is actually going into making itself warm. So for a snake to become warmer, it will bask in the sun. Yes, the Australian Museum Herpetology Department definitely still collects specimens, but these days our collection is more targeted. So we will collect things that we're currently working on, but we will also do broad scale collection if we went to an area where we may not already have material. Another way we get a lot of material is through donations, especially roadkills. I'm a great proponent of, if you find a roadkill snake, you should bring it to the museum, because often some of those animals are not totally destroyed, and people bring them in here all the time. We prepare them and they actually become great scientific specimens.
Frog ID is the Australian Museum's national citizen science project, and it's forming a born digital collection. So people out there on their smartphones across Australia are recording the calls of frogs to identify species. So far we've got around 800,000 audio recordings that result in over 1.2 million records of frogs. And they're a collection. They have all the data that we love. So it's time, date, location. We have these audio files that are evidence. So we can go back to them, we can listen to them, we can get all sorts of information out of them. And it's an amazing resource and a novel way that museums are building digital collections that help inform how we can conserve our amazing frogs and other biodiversity into the future. Both the Australian Museum collections and the Frog ID database are really, really core to what I do. I need both to better understand and conserve frogs and biodiversity in general. And we need this long-term data set that the Australian Museum collections gives us, and all the information that the specimens can reveal, combined now with this really intensive born digital collection, this Frog ID audio database that helps us get a really intense snapshot of how our frogs are doing. It's kind of revolutionised how we do research, being able to combine these two amazing collections. It's been an absolute game changer for biodiversity conservation in Australia.